I actually find, though, that being a working mom and having an identity separate from being a mom makes me a much better mom. And I don't have guilt. I don't have shame. I don't have any of it.
Talk to me about the challenges of motherhood in general when it comes to specifically being an entrepreneur, because I feel like a lot of women who don't do it think it's easy.
Time is everything.
Yeah.
And I feel like when I became a mother, it was like you can always do more with your kids and you can always do more with your business.
Relationships with the partners, with the men, are somewhat deprioritized. Do you guys feel that that's the case? Welcome back to another episode of the Creator Method podcast. I am excited today, and I am going to just jump right into it, guys. None of my nonsense small talk. Today, I'm joined with Dale Stabler and Annabel Lawee, two entrepreneurs and creators who are living in the always and ultimately challenging intersection of business, creativity, and motherhood. Dale is the founder of Sweats in the City and Oro, right? O-R-R-O,
Correct.
Oro. Where she's built a loyal community around wellness and lifestyle. Annabel is the founder of Breeze, a venture-backed startup improving how travelers eat on the go. And she's also helping women navigate career transitions and identity shifts. Together, they've created We Are More Than Moms, a podcast and community built on honest conversations about ambition, motherhood, and fulfillment. What stands out about both of them is how intentional they are in building both their personal brands and the brands of the businesses that they create, with both purpose and real connection. So first of all, guys, thank you for being here.
Of course, thank
you for having us.
Of course. I'm a little embarrassed because when I read this at home, I had it on my big screens, and I guess I had it zoomed in. I gotta get glasses, and like when you're denying it, and then you just say, okay, screw it, I gotta get it done. So guys, thank you for being here. I appreciate this a lot. Where do each of you live? Because I know there's less in LA, and both of you.
Both of us live in LA.
And you're both from Toronto.
And we're both from Toronto.
I'm from Montreal.
Okay.
I always say that.
I went to school in Toronto.
Okay. And so, when did you guys move to Los Angeles?
We moved during COVID. I moved about 2 months before Dale.
We both lived in New York after we graduated. We went to Western.
I went to Western.
I guess you went to Western. Okay, you went to...
I meant a few decades before you guys, but I went to Western, yes.
So yeah, I went to Ivy. Dale was a year older than me. I went to Ivy. I graduated. I moved to New York, and I didn't know anyone. And Dale had like a built-in community, and we were party friends for a while, a lot of our 20s. We'd go out together, promoter dinners, all of that. And then we both built our businesses in New York. Then I moved to LA, mostly because the pandemic shut down my business, and I needed to figure out how to survive the pandemic. And we were live at LAX, and so I needed to be in person there. So while everyone was scared to be in an airport, I was at LAX, triple mask visor, trying to make things work.
Wow.
And then finally things started doing better. Then you moved. And then we had babies at the same time, and then that's where our whole friendship and business
Sorry, you guys weren't in business together before you came to LA.
No.
So you both being in LA is a complete coincidence. But you knew each other from before.
Yes.
Sorry, you're saying you knew each other from
We
before.
knew
So
each
we
other
weren't as close, but when Annabelle moved to LA and I was moving to LA, we just reconnected again, and then motherhood just really bonded us. And then we were like, well, we should probably we would voice note each other back and forth when we were like pregnant or we just had babies, and we're like, oh, I wish there was a podcast or like an outlet for these conversations. And then one day we're like, well, why don't we do that? And that's kind of how that came about.
Yeah, and I think like Valeria and I talked about it today. Like when you go through these like deep, intimate moments of motherhood, mom friends are a lifeline. It's not a nice to have, it's a need to have. And we were that for each other. And through that, you create such a deep bond and you share the most vulnerable things. And then we were like, why don't we do something with this? We started an Instagram. Dale already had experience on social media, and we just started, and we would have like 400 followers and just be talking to the camera like we had thousands, and the rest is history.
Perfect. Okay, so let me get this straight. I want to understand. So you guys had your own, or you continue to have your own respective separate businesses. Mm-hmm. So you're not in business like per se in your other ventures, but you are in business together. This is a business, right? The media property of We Are More Than Moms, that you're doing together.
Yes.
Exactly. So we have our own things, then we have our things, shared things.
Yes.
Well, I mean, this is very unique. So you are the first creators that I've come across that are doing this, that are your partners on the media side, but you're not partners, or maybe you are, I don't know how you guys have structured your stuff, but you're not necessarily partners on the other businesses because you're both entrepreneurs as well as moms.
Yes, that's
Correct.
exactly correct.
So what else is interesting is that you've come together, you've identified this. I think it's brilliant, by the way. You've identified that you're both approximately the same age. You both happen to be from Canada. You knew each other from before. So it feels like very serendipitous. You both moved to Los Angeles at the same time, and you identified, okay, we're both moms, we're both entrepreneurs, we're both going through the same thing. You both understood, I believe, that as entrepreneurs, you both need to develop your personal brand.
Yes.
But you saw maybe like in a creative situation where it's like, let's look at it as like 1 + 1 = 3,
Yes.
where getting together, you have each other to talk with in terms of potentially like dialogues, not potentially, but you're doing dialogues on a podcast, which you can then create tons of content from. So I think it's brilliant. I think you guys are doing
Yeah.
great. And then do you guys, when it comes to developing your personal brands, I see that you're doing that. Are you somehow developing your businesses respectively? Like, do each of your respective businesses show up in your content at all for people to understand the connection between the two?
Yours does.
Mine does because I have a public account. I've always been a public figure. So it was actually when I had launched this with Annabel, people already knew me.
Right.
Not like saying everyone knew me at all, but just I had a community built in that was like, oh, that makes sense. Like you're also doing a motherhood thing as I was entering motherhood. And my account was with another creator, and now she's solo. And then I have this account solo. So there's been a lot of crossover.
Okay.
But I think as I've developed in my journey, I do a lot of fitness content and wellness content on one, and then motherhood is like our main focus. So
Yeah, sometimes there's crossover.
Sometimes
So
there's
we'll do a
crossover.
collab reel here and there. I think my journey to social media is very, very different. And if it wasn't for Dale encouraging me, like there's no way I would be here. For my past businesses, I've always hired a social media team because I never wanted to waste my time on Instagram.
Yeah.
So I had a social media person, and I would focus on the business and the strategy. I think that's like where a lot of my strengths lie. And then when we started this, it felt actually a little cringy at first. Dale was the one to encourage me, and she kept going. But now it just feels so natural because I'm living the motherhood experience anyway. So now I'm sharing it. It doesn't feel like work ever. It's not work. We talk about podcasts. We host mom communities. We have this new group coaching program now to help moms through identity shifts. Those are all things that I'm living through, and now I'm just sharing. So it never feels like work. Whereas my other businesses are, I guess, more on like the businessy side, and I'm not using
Right.
that social media aspect much.
Right. Are you okay? So you were developing your own personal brand prior to the new, like the current, it's the We Are More Than Moms Instagram account, that's the handle. It's
Yes.
at We Are More Than Moms. And then you weren't.
So I still don't really like my personal brand. I'm still on private on Instagram.
Right.
I do a lot of my things like private, and then on More Than Moms, that's where I like show my face and talk and do all of that.
What's holding you back from doing that?
I just like don't feel like I have space for both of them,
Fair.
to be completely honest. I show up like fully on We Are More Than Moms, and I talk about my motherhood journey and all that. And then on my personal, I'll post pictures of my kids like swimming or things
I
that
get
I
it.
probably wouldn't, but
Yeah.
yeah.
I want to talk a little bit about motherhood in general. This is a very
Yes.
interesting topic for me. And, as you guys know, Valeria and I have 3 little boys. And I've seen many kind of evolutions of Valeria's throughout her journey as a mom. Not only with every child, but also as the business continues to scale and simultaneously as she comes into her own as her, I don't want to say as a personal brand, but as a person that happens to also be a brand. How have you found that for yourselves? Just talk to me about the challenges of motherhood in general when it comes to specifically being an entrepreneur, because I feel like a lot of women who don't do it think it's easy. A lot of women who do it, I think, need the support of a community. I think hence, why it's amazing to have this platform. Talk to me about the main challenges that you guys are experiencing as moms and entrepreneurs simultaneously.
Yeah, I would say, time is everything.
Yeah.
And I feel like when I became a mother, it was like you can always do more with your kids and you can always do more with your business. And it's being pulled in 2 directions where you're never going to feel like you're doing enough. So it's the struggle of of course, there's the mom guilt and all that. And I don't feel guilty for working because I know there's so many benefits and I love it. But it's more the idea that I'm always, there's so much more I could be doing. And I'm like, oh, if I could
on which side?
On both.
Right.
So I'm like, oh, if I could just focus on motherhood, I could do so many great things with my kids. If I could just focus on, my account, I could who knows where I could be. And it's this constant struggle. I mean, I'm so grateful to have both, and I wouldn't, trade it for anything. But there's just this internal dialogue that it's just like never enough.
Yeah, I actually find, though, that being a working mom and having an identity separate from being a mom makes me a much better mom. Mm-hmm. And I don't have guilt. I don't have shame. I don't have any of it. I think I probably did in the earlier years where I was tuning into the noise instead of my own intuition.
Right.
But the second I'm like, I know myself now and I get who I am as a mom, I'm like, no, me flying across the country to do this interview is making me a better mom, even if I'm away from my kids. And I trust that my husband and my nanny and the systems I have in place work well, that I can be here and I can shine. And I also think, similar to what Valeria was talking about today and on our podcast, was like, you're setting a great role model for your kids. It's amazing that they can see that. They can see that's a powerful mom. And yeah, I am like very unapologetic about it because I know it makes me better.
Yeah, so I think that's incredible. I mean, the fact that you've come to that place. Sorry, if you don't mind me asking, how old are you?
I'm 34.
You're 34. You're Valeria's age. She just turned 35. So it's really interesting because Valeria, I think she still has difficulty with it. She's much better now than she used to be. When I say better, I mean for herself. Like she ends up doing the business stuff anyways, but now she's doing it without the negativity of all of this like overwhelming like dark cloud over her of this guilt. So, but you seem to have come to that naturally, or is it your partner who's kind of on top, like been telling you this, or how did you come to this?
No, I think I've come to it naturally, but ask Dale, like I have like very firm boundaries.
Yeah.
My phone sleeps downstairs, so around 5, 6 p.m. my phone is downstairs and I am with my kids. Like I'm not trying to do both. Obviously, there are some times where I'm trying to do both, but mostly it's not. When I'm with my kids, I'm really trying to like be with my kids. And when I am working and I have a nanny, I am delegating to my nanny. And I'm very open about that too, because that allows me to be me. So I think it's just now this is where I am, but this is after I've been a mom now for 2.5 years. I have 2 kids. I finally feel like I have this like inner confidence inside of me to tune into. And you can ask Dale too, like I've been wrapped up with the noises of motherhood. Sure. And I scrolling and they're all experts and I'm doing everything wrong. Yeah. But I finally come out of that and I see that the more I listen to myself, the better it is. And then just making sure that I have the boundaries in place to really like savor the time that I do have with my kids, and not let anyone tell me otherwise.
That's amazing. That's amazing. From a father's perspective, kind of looking at the situation and seeing how it's been with Valeria and I, what I find that for me, for example, it's less about the quantity of time I spend with them. Yeah. I know it's like that whole like, the saying quantity and quality, but I don't feel like I don't need that much time with them. I feel like when I'm with them, if I sit down and let's say, for example, like before bed, I'll spend, let's say, 20 to 30 minutes with each of them and I'll talk to them. The depth of that conversation is amazing. And I feel it because especially like with Ben, he's very attached to me, our 10-year-old. And before I leave to say goodnight, I turn out the light, he comes back and goes, "Papa, can I have one more hug?" And so I really feel it. And then I cannot really connect with him for 2 days because I'm busy, he's busy, he has his activities. And they all come back, and they all kind of come, and we all come back together. But I feel like with Valeria, all these years, we've been together 15 years now, and Jake's almost 13. He's going to be 13 in a few months. It's like she always felt that it was all about the quantity of time, and whereas I feel it's like what I do in those shorter periods of time. Yeah. And I try to, so I find that, and I think that's maybe a disparity between kind of how men and women look at parenting, but that's just kind of how I look at it. I feel relationships with the partners, with the men, are somewhat deprioritized. Do you guys feel that that's the case?
I don't think it's deprioritized because I think, and maybe we should start sharing this more. We were actually just saying we need to do a podcast episode on this, is that I think I keep that more private. I'm sharing the mom stuff, right? But then I guess my relationship with my husband is a lot more private. We're actually going on a trip this week for the first time with both kids, solo. We're going without them.
You're going without the kids?
Without them.
Good.
My husband and I are both entrepreneurs too. We're very deeply involved in each other's businesses. We know everything about each other's businesses. And I don't know, like my love language is quality of presence. So he's also aligned with the putting away the phones and like being present in the evening times. And I guess I just like don't show that. I guess I like protect that more as like my moment, because I'm not going to start taking my phone out and filming stuff in that moment because it's so sacred to me. But I do really believe that it's really important, that relationship. I will say though, when people are always like, you need to prioritize date nights, or he needs to buy you flowers, or like things like that, that's not, again, like what love for me in this current stage means. My kids haven't been sleeping for the last couple of months. It's been really hard. And so going on a date night is just not what we're doing in this season of parenthood.
Yeah.
But like going for a walk in the middle of the day or going for lunch or sitting down and having an intentional conversation, like those are all things that have really like filled the cup in those moments. It doesn't always have to be these like showy things that we're doing.
Sure. How about you, Dale? How do you fit your husband into all of this?
Yeah, so I feel like a little bit, I feel like all our answers are opposite, which I love for us. But I actually think it is I'm not going to pretend that our relationship right now is taking priority over how it once was before our kids. Like, it is hard.
It's a lot.
And
Like,
I'm not going to sugarcoat that. Like,
Yeah,
we
yeah.
have it all figured out and we do all these little date nights and all these little things. We don't. I love him to death. And we're actually going on a solo trip too. We have a wedding in New York this weekend, which is nice. But a lot of it is logistics. And I'm not going to sugarcoat that because I do think that like a lot of moms can relate that it is really hard. And of course, it would be we would love to spend more time together, but then we're like, okay, we have to make this gala, we have to make this person's birthday. So the nights that we can do the date night or do the things, and he's working full time and I'm working full time, is hard. And it's just trying to find little moments in the day to connect. Or it doesn't mean that it has to be, okay, like maybe it is a conversation where like lately we've been like, okay, meet in the kitchen in 5, we have to discuss like our plan for the next week. And like, we do talk about logistics and things like that, but we just can just phone free, just chat. But yeah, a lot of it is centered around the kids. So
It's true. Like when you do have time, like when you do go for the walk or the lunch or the date night, a lot of it is talking about the logistics, because in order for the household to run, like there's just so many things that need to happen, because like you need to coordinate. Like we're going away for 10 days to Europe. I have an Excel spreadsheet of like
absolutely.
and there's a million different caretakers coming in. I don't have family. Like there's just so many things happening, and you guys got to be on the same page. So yeah, a lot of our talks are consumed by that, and that's just the reality of the season that we're in.
You know, it's just talking with you guys. It reminds me of, your kids are a lot younger than ours, and it reminds me of those times. One thing I will say, if I may,
Yes,
as
please.
someone who's kind
Please.
of further down the road, is that just like like when you start a business, in the beginning everything is complex because you're figuring systems out as you go, and you're trying to run it at the same time and grow it at the same time. But then it gets easier because the systems start working. You get the right personnel, you get the right team members. It's exactly the same thing. So what happens is with the kids is that all of these systems you guys are building and all of this that you're going through, and even like the help that you get and that you don't get or whatever it is, all of this, it starts to flow. And then the great thing about it is that it compounds, because as your systems start getting better and kicking in, and everyone's getting used to it, and everybody knows their roles. Mostly the men, we have to figure that out. That's a little more difficult for us. But more importantly, the kids become more mature, and to the point where now Jake, who's going on 13 in a few months, he's actually putting Max to bed. Whereas before it was like a free for all, us trying to like figure out their nighttime routines and their morning routines. And it's just so much easier. Like today, I took the boys to school this morning. Valeria was at the gym, and I just took the 3 boys to school. And it was just like, hey, get up. This guy, get up.
Yeah.
I see Jake like combing Max's hair in the bathroom. Like, it's just like, I just realized, whoa, is this happening? This is crazy. This is amazing.
But fast forward like 6 years ago, taking all 3
Rewind.
kids.
You mean.
it's like you're fighting for your life.
Yeah.
Rewind.
Oh yeah,
If
yeah.
you
it
take 2
was
kids
like,
out, I'm fighting for
If
my
I
life.
take
Like, then
my
the
2
baby.
kids to school at the same time, I'm like,
Oh yeah, no, so that's I feel very embarrassed about those moments in my life, because I probably lost my temper more often than I should have. So I actually feel guilt that my kids have to see me lose my temper. But it was like, you get one kid in the car,
Yeah.
and then the other kid's in his underwear still, and then you get so mad, you just grab him with his underwear and his clothes, and you're like, get dressed in the back of the car, and then you find yourself dressing your kid in the school parking lot because he didn't, you know what I'm talking
Yes,
about, right?
yes.
So yeah, that's
and then you ask us if we want to have a 3rd kid. So.
Yeah, and
Right.
then we're like, there's no way.
Right. But then, it's like, okay, I don't want to go to school, Papa. You wake up in the morning, let's go. It's 5 minutes before we have to leave, and you're still in bed. It's like, I'm too tired, because they were, playing video games too late. Yeah, it's ongoing. But I found for myself, calming down and not getting mad and just trying to be more empathetic to them, I found that they actually really improved with their behavior. So basically, the problem was me. And maybe Valeria to a certain degree, because sometimes she loses her temper too. So I think it all comes back down to us. I believe that the kids are a reflection of us. So the calmer that we can be, and the better we are with being organized in systems, and as those systems evolve, I find it does get easier.
It's also like what we say when you're on the plane with your kids and they're screaming. If you're getting like anxious and you're like, oh, everyone's
escalates.
staring at me, then it's going to escalate. So people always say like, oh, I felt so bad for the person. I'm like, no, kids are allowed to be on the plane. They have just as every right to be on the plane as you. So it's just not to get all anxious and just be like, okay, meet them at their level.
Absolutely. Well, for me, I just don't care what people think, right? So I can be out in public and my kids can be screaming their heads off, and other people can be annoyed.
Were you always like that?
No. I that's a whole other conversation about like, seeking external validation. So I no longer care about external validation because first of all, I think I'm pretty awesome and I kind of won in life. I have the girl, I got the kids, we're doing good. So to me, I feel very confident and good about myself for those achievements. So I no longer require that external validation, and I actually think it's stupid. And that's like a whole deeper conversation. But once people do get to that, I find like you have, have you heard the saying? You have two lives. The once when you're actually born, and the other when you realize that you're going to die.
Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. And I feel it's kind of similar. You have two kind of awakenings in your life. Once when you get your first memory, and the second is when you stop caring what other people think.
Right.
And it's very freeing, and it's actually fundamental, because we're going to get into the talk of content creation. It's actually fundamental in content creation to not care. I care what my kids think of me. I care that they look at me as someone to look up to. That's really important to me. And I care that my wife loves and respects me and thinks that I'm a good person, and that I can provide, like, not just money-wise, but just all around, like, I'm there for the family. So I think we all get there. I want to switch gears a little bit. And before we get into kind of talking about more content creation, because I do want to dive into that, can you just guys tell me really briefly about your business?
Yeah, so about 10 years ago, when I was working corporate in New York, and people started posting on Instagram, and they called it the blogging influencing world was popping up.
Yeah.
I and my roommate at the time, we were like, why don't we start? We thought actually it was late to get into the Instagram game, to become an influencer. We're like, and stories hadn't even been invented yet.
Oh, okay, 10 years ago.
And this is 10 years ago. Like, there weren't even stories, there weren't reels. It was all just like a grid. Like, the algorithm was by what's it called?
Hashtags.
Hashtags, and just like timeline wise. So chronological order. That flew from my brain.
Yeah, no worries.
So we started posting fitness studio reviews, and then we started a fitness app when COVID hit. All the instructors that were out of work, like all these instructors working at like Soul Cycle and Flybar, and they were all closed down. Mm-hmm. We had them come on our app, which is a one fee, and they would teach their class because we had the community. We already built our community. So we basically got the videos, we'd pay for the video, and they were like, great, we can get a community. And that's kind of how we grew our fitness app. So, and I still do fitness content creation on that account. So that's the basis of the business.
Sorry, so the business right now it's an app that...
So it's a platform. So Sweats and City is an Instagram account, and that's what it started as, but we also have an app called Oro. We named it Oro.
So Oro is the app that is associated with Sweats in the City. Is Oro an acronym for something?
So sort of. So ORO and we were like, that's like kind of means dual in Spanish, and we were like, okay, but that was taken. So we're like, well, we like that if it's a double R, it really is double. Like, it was just kind of just something that we came up with, and there's not really.
So it's not an acronym.
But it's not really an acronym for anything. But yeah.
And is it a subscription-based monetization model?
Subscription-based model.
Amazing.
Yeah,
How about yourself, Annabel?
Okay, so I was working in the startup scene in New York. I was traveling a lot for work. I had a lot of food issues, and I just hated airport food. I was like, why do I have to overdose on almonds and land feeling just gross, or
Sure.
I land feeling hangry?
Yeah.
So we started the model of cloud kitchens, but in airports. So we would take underutilized space within an airport environment, create kitchens actually inside the airport, create food, and then you would order on your phone as a consumer, and the food would get brought to you. No one sees the kitchen.
Sorry, brought to you where?
In the gate or the terminal.
Really?
Yes.
How come I don't know about this? What airports are you
I
in?
sold it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well,
so
what
I'm not
airports?
as like.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It's at LAX, and Delta was one of our main investors. So basically fast forward, but the pandemic hit. We were live at LAX, and I had to figure out how to survive because the airport would cancel your contract if you weren't up and running, even though there was no passengers in the airport. So it's also the time when there was the stimulus checks going on, so no one wanted to come work at the airport. So I was like kind of working day to day there, but COVID actually really accelerated the business because people learned to order on QR codes and we were a lot more familiar with online ordering. Delta also didn't have food on board because of the pandemic, and then they would put a marketing email to everyone and telling them to order Breeze. So that was amazing. I sold that in 2023, right before my daughter was born.
Okay.
And then now I do career coaching mostly for people who are in transitions in their life. So either wanting to start their company, a new company coming from corporate, or something like that. And I think the whole thing is that people often think that the big picture is very overwhelming, and how do we break that down? So if I want to quit and start this company I've always been passionate about, I'm not going to do it because I'm scared. A lot of women have that mindset. But it's like, okay, but what do I have to do today? What do I have to do this week?
Yeah.
And then I can break that down into small little baby steps, and then next thing you know, you've accomplished your goal.
Wow.
So a lot of that is what I do on the side. Yeah.
Well, it doesn't sound like it's a side. It sounds like
No,
it's your
now it's like my main thing, I guess.
And so-
and with more than moms.
And with more than moms. I just have a question about
Yeah.
the business. I mean, you just kind of said it like it's really casual, like we were funded by Delta. How do you get funding by a major airline?
It's what you said earlier, what we were just talking about. It's like you just ask, you just put yourself out there.
So you
and
just emailed like
no.
their head of
So this
their-
is what happened. One of my angel investors, put me in touch with a low-level employee at Delta just to talk about what I was doing. The guy was like, "Do you want to meet on Zoom?" And I was like, "No, I'm going to be in Atlanta." I wasn't. I flew to Atlanta from New York because I always believe in face-to-face connections
Sure.
better. I flew to Atlanta. We were in the cafeteria having our meeting.
You said you intentionally flew to Atlanta
I flew to
and
Atlanta.
told him that you were.
But I
just
told
having
him
a
I
meeting.
was going to be in Atlanta,
Okay.
but I
Oh,
wasn't.
good.
I flew in for the
Yeah, I
day.
didn't want you to gloss over that.
Perfect.
I thought that was really
Yes,
good.
because
Yeah,
in New
no, you're
York,
right.
it's like an hour and a half. It's
Yeah,
very
yeah.
easy. And I don't even have to leave the airport because they're... Anyways, when we were in the cafeteria having the meeting, the guy's boss's boss, came and said hi to him and introduced me. And so I was like, "Hi, I'm Annabel. I started this company called Breeze." And he's like, "Wow, that's very interesting. Are you free later? Like, would love to have you in front of X, Y, and Z." And if I didn't go, I wouldn't have had that face-to-face connection and met the boss. Anyway, then the boss's boss. Then we had a larger meeting, and then it scaled into something bigger. We were actually their first investment ever. They started a venture like technology
Sure.
fund, and I was the first investment from that. But it took a year, by the way. It doesn't happen overnight. But that first connection was from putting myself out there. And I always tell people, it's like, you never know. Talk to the person on the plane. Go talk to the person that you're scared of. Ask the question. You never know what they're going to say.
So I want to take what you just said and I want to add something to it.
Yes.
Okay. What happened with you? It seems to me it does happen. It doesn't happen all the time, and it's rare that it happens. Okay. However, when you create content at scale and you're putting it out there and you're connecting with people, it happens pretty
Yes.
often. So I can say that for Valeria and I, we started in the suburbs of Toronto. We're not from Hollywood or anything like that, right? So systematically creating content and putting it out there over long periods of time, we have more opportunities coming at us that we know what to do with. We probably get anywhere from on any given day between 100 to 200 inbound emails. Some of it is kind of crap, but a lot of it is very meaningful. So I guess my point is that what happened with you, it happened, and obviously it worked out tremendously well. But imagine having a steady flow of those types of opportunities
Right.
from people in these positions, because like social media doesn't discriminate, right? So your content will get to a person like, I don't know, like a kind of junior person at a company who can't really do anything, but your content will also get to the person who's making the
Yeah.
decisions at the top.
Aloe.
There's
Yeah.
what I'm saying is social, the algorithms don't discriminate. It's based on if that senior person has an interest
100%.
in what you're putting out. So let's say it's a mom who's picked up on your podcast, who's one of your reels has gotten to her and she resonates with it. And she happens to be the person who makes decisions for, I don't know, like a business that could potentially buy you or do a strategic partnership with you or help in any kind of way. The chances of you reaching that person versus a person
100%.
who has no power is the same, right?
Yeah.
So that's why it's so important. I'm always coming back to why to
You're
create
You're
content.
so right. Like even the other day, like Jamie Lynn Spears liked our reel, like how she saw that, right? Because the virality.
So that's Britney
It
Spears' sister.
Yes.
And I noticed you had the D'Amelios.
Yeah, Heidi
Mhm.
D'Amelio. That
Yeah,
was from
Larry
a
had her on the
networking
podcast,
event
too.
that I was at that I
Yeah.
asked her. But yeah, you're so right. Like you're able to have those like effects much quicker and much faster on social media. But again, it's putting yourself out there. You have to start by putting yourself out there.
Well, there's putting yourself out there like what you did when you just, you talked to someone, you called, you went to Atlanta. That's putting yourself out there. But imagine the effect when you're putting yourself like out
There on social media.
on a daily basis on social
Yes.
media in a systematic way, then it's just exponentially more. I think like our biggest problem right now is actually screening the opportunities and understanding. And I'm not just talking about like people contacting saying, can we like spend money to place ads with you guys or to do strategic like kind of brand partnerships. It's real like interesting things that we can do in terms of both exposure and experiences and even stuff for the kids is just incredible. So anyways, I'm a big proponent, as you guys know, of content creation and what it'll do. Talk to me about how We Are More Than Moms has evolved. First of all, how long has it been up?
2 years.
2 years.
Okay.
2 years.
Talk to me about your growth and your evolution.
Yeah, so when we first started, obviously started from zero.
And just for context,
Yeah.
you're at 57,000
Yeah.
followers.
Yes, 57,000. So we
Started
I
as
would
an
say that-
IRL.
Yeah, we got our first, I would say, 1,000 by way of networking our communities. So, for example, like I was posting on my Sweats in the City. We both posted on our personal accounts. Like we got the people who are in our kind of orbit to follow.
Yeah.
So that was like the first round of the influx. And then it was like, okay, we need to reach more people. And from there, we started to strategize with, reels, humor,
The first one that went viral was when we were on our way to Mexico.
travel tips,
Travel hacks.
travel hacks, and that was
Yeah.
like got us some visibility. And then
It got us to like 10K.
I would say, I don't know if you obviously probably do remember, but like a year-ish ago, when you could just write a description of who you wanted to follow you and say follow me, people were flocking to you. Like I know people that grew hundreds of thousands from that, and we went from like 10 to like 40K in a week or like a couple weeks.
The Paris reels.
Yeah, and then those also exploded even more. We had when
So I went to Europe. We lived in Paris for 3 months with my toddler, and I
Nice.
posted all these reels about like French moms versus
Versus
American
American
moms,
moms.
and like how we do things like so differently in
Yeah.
America. And those ones started to like every single one had like millions
Everyone
of views.
popped up.
Every single one that I would put out, it just like hit an algorithm. So I think it was like a very like seamless approach. And also I think More Than Moms has really grown based on organically what we've been going through or organically what the feedback we've been getting. So we were very into like, even though we don't have a massive audience, it's very engaged. So people were like, you should start long form content. Okay, we started a podcast. Like you should start like group coaching for helping people through identity crisis. So that we started
Specifically
Next
moms
Chapter.
who are going through those transitions.
Yes.
Okay.
And so like all of our growth has really been like community led. It doesn't feel like forced in any way, which is really nice when you're used to like growing businesses and like pushing. This doesn't feel like you're pushing. It doesn't feel forced. It feels like very
Right.
natural.
So I have a question that's maybe you feel is obvious, but I want to hear it from you. Why are you guys doing this? What is your desired outcome with We Are More Than Moms?
being a content creator, it's just access to opportunities.
Like what we talked about with
What we
that
talk
flow,
about.
yeah.
Yeah, and I think, of course we have our message and the goal was really to create community, but I think it's like, okay, we could have created a community on our own and just not have put it on social media because
But sorry to interrupt
Yeah,
you,
yeah.
but community to me, that's not the goal because that's not the benefit.
Right.
That's the feature. The community is the vessel to what benefit that you guys are trying to extract from this.
I actually find it's like helping make people feel less alone. I know it sounds cliche and stupid, but
No,
it's
not at all. Why?
because I find that motherhood can be really isolating.
I agree.
And I find that by sharing my experience and the responses
Yes.
that you get, it's like, oh my God, me too. It's not just me. Like when I post something and I feel like kind of vulnerable and scared to share, and then people say like, oh no, this happened to me. You're not alone. Like it's like this bond in motherhood that even if I don't know you, but you're a mom and I'm a mom, it's like this, I don't even know how to explain
So
it.
Yeah.
I think that from what you're telling me, your goal is impact,
Yes.
right?
Exactly.
That's I think the easiest way
I'm
to
never
describe it.
like I'm not someone who's driven by money. I'm very driven by like impact or like affecting change, things like that.
So I'm driven by money, not exclusively, but I believe, and I've had this shift in my life in the last couple of years, is I would create businesses that were kind of money first. Like my goal was for the business to make money. my goal still is for the business to make money, but what I'm doing now is I'm ignoring that goal, and now I'm saying to myself, and the way that we operate our businesses is, my goal and our goal is to create impact.
Yes.
And it's through the creation of impact that we're going to make money. Just today, we were talking with a large conference that is going to have myself and Valeria on stage, and we were talking about the programming and whatnot, and they're saying to me, Gary, we want you to know that we're going to convert people to become members of Creator Method and blah, blah, blah. And they kept saying this. And then at one point when they were done, I said, actually, I don't want to talk about Creator Method. Like, I actually don't want to ask anyone to join Creator Method. They're like, then what's the goal of you being on the stage? I said, the goal of me being on the stage is to impact the audience in a positive way. And what will happen is, I believe with time, the people who are supposed to come and join Creator Method will come and join Creator Method.
Completely.
And so I think we're aligned.
Exactly.
Right. Because you guys have success in your, with your businesses. So
I also would say that, and I always tell my coaching clients this,
Yeah.
if you're doing something that's authentic to you and you're actually passionate
Yeah.
about it, the money will come. I think people are so focused on, like, I need to create a business idea, I need to do it, I need to make money, but if you're not starting it from the right place, if you're not
Right.
speaking your authentic truth, then it's not.
because people don't want to delay gratification, right? People want to get on a stage or be on a podcast, and then the next day they're getting calls with people offering them money.
Yes.
That's just not how it works. Like, you're building a personal brand, and the way you build a personal brand is by constantly giving. So I think I understand. Just going back to kind of the premise of my question is that when I ask why you're doing this, it's to create impact, but then at the same time, that impact leads to a lot of opportunities.
Yeah.
So I think it's great. And look, I also believe that what you're doing is, like, it's really important, because I know how isolating and how tough it is to be a mom, both for the first time and in general, like all the way down the line. And if I have to say, like, I think it's actually easier than being a dad. I think being a dad is hard, but not as hard as being a mom.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the connection between moms and kids, it's not that it's a deeper connection, it's different. It's different.
It's like a lot of history. A lot of history behind moms.
It's, yeah. Anyways, what's next for We Are More Than Moms? Like, how are you guys planning to evolve it? How's growth going?
So growth in terms of like the virality and the follower count definitely is a little bit slower than it was before. But our goal right now, like, yes, we obviously want the follower growth, but we've been really focused on that meaningful impact. So when we were going through our major growth phase, a big theme that was popping up over and over again that went viral was identity. And we said, okay, we have this, we talk about identity all the time, but what are we offering them? Because it was like, POV, you're a mom, you like are in this in-between phase, and everyone's like, okay, yes, but and?
Yeah, it's
we didn't
I'm
have
in
this
maternity leave.
I'm on maternity leave. You're dreading going back to your old job, but you want something new. And we were like, but we didn't have like an offering. So Annabel has a history of coaching. We were like, why don't we help women who are in this transitional phase, specifically new moms, trying to figure out what's next for their career. They know they don't want to go back to their old job, or they know they want something new. Like, what is it? And as two moms who are really happy in terms of like what we do every day, we were like, we can coach them. And actually the Creator Method helped us think about, why don't we do this in a group setting? And the power of the group was actually the most impressive, amazing thing that's happened, because these moms connect, they meet for coffee, they talk about everything from relationships to career to motherhood to nanny recommendations and everything in between. They have their own relationships, and it's really just like a program to help them. And at the end goal is to, like, we have lawyers, we have social workers.
Sure.
Like, it's to help them get unstuck and figure out what they truly want to be doing.
You know what I think? I think,
Yeah.
I kind of say this carefully because I don't want moms to attack me to say I don't know what I'm talking about because I'm not a mom. But I think that this identity crisis isn't just with new moms. What I've noticed in the conversations that I've had with, just socially with our friends and with both the husbands and the wives, like the men and the women in these relationships, is that it's not only when they become moms for the first time, it's also when the kids kind of are a little older and they're just like, who am I?
Yeah.
Yes.
Like, who, you know what I mean? So I think that there's somewhat of a, I think it almost compares to like a midlife crisis, which I've kind of on the other side of that now. But with moms, I think there's this like mom crisis when they become mothers and everything changes. And then later on, when once they've kind of acclimated to their new identity as moms, then it's like the kids are old enough and the kids are even just kind of like, I'm good. I'm like, stop, mom, like leave me alone. Kind of, when that happens, I think moms are just like, who am I now? Like, what's my role? I find that a lot of women, they, by the nature of, I think, being a woman, give themselves so much to their children and give themselves so much to their role as a mother that when the child is kind of like, I'm good. I don't need you
Like,
to
who am
do
I
my
now?
hair. I don't need, who am I now?
I
Very
think
true.
like when you become a mom, it's like you have to take inventory. You're like forced to take inventory of your life, right? It's like your priorities have shifted. Like what's your non-negotiables? What's most important for you? And then from that place of taking inventory, you can then build from there. But you can't just like, okay, now I want to do something. You have to really take inventory of like what excites you, what doesn't. Like we often tell them like, what excited you when you were a kid? Like what like really excites you? Not like what you think you should do, because a lot of it is we have to unlearn a lot of the things that we were exposed to in our childhood or environment. Like at least for me, like I went to Ivy Business School and it was like, okay, you're gonna graduate and you're gonna go into finance and you're gonna make X amount and then you're gonna get your MBA. And I listened to that for a while, but then it was also like, no, like I questioned it. I think a lot of us don't question the narratives that we were brought up with, and then motherhood forces you to question it because you're like, I'm so unfulfilled. How can I parent by being so unfulfilled at this job? Then you question it, and then you get into an identity crisis because you're like, how can I quit this job that's making all my money? But then you can, and we're here to tell you on the other side, like, not that money is the end goals, but we're making more money now than we ever did.
Sure.
And that comes because we're passionate, we're fulfilled, and we're like, actually understand who we are and we're being authentic.
No, that's incredible. Look, I want to talk about We Are More Than Moms and kind of offer any help that I can, both like strategically and from tactically. There's a couple of things that I observed that I wanted to kind of share with you guys. I think what you guys are missing, at least on the social media, like at least on the Instagram side, because I identified that there's the Instagram account and then there's the podcast.
And then there's like the next chapter, which is our group coaching. And then
one Instagram account.
We also have our IRL
Right.
too. Yeah.
I'm not seeing enough of a through line on the storytelling.
Okay.
Right? So I'm not seeing enough of the two of you in there, because now we're kind of, we're deep into this conversation and I'm seeing your individual personalities. There's a lot more that needs to, in my opinion, that needs to come out. So I feel like there's a little bit of ambiguity. I understand conceptually when looking at the account, but I believe where you will experience growth is if you can create like a through line on the storytelling side and you can have some continuity on the formatting side. So I see that you're doing the podcast. I want to see it more intentional and more kind of deliberate. And my idea for that is, I know that you guys have guests. I don't think you need them. I think it should be conversations with the two of you. So what I would love to see, where my suggestion to you is, and if you're not doing this already, I'd love to see you guys in studio, like in a studio like this.
We do that.
Like once to twice a week, regularly, all the time. Okay. And the reason I don't know if you're doing it like that is because when I look at your grid in general, I should be seeing a checkerboard of like let's say like a cover image with the two of you, and maybe like some wording that's like something to entice people when they're looking at the grid to look at, right? Because it auto plays when people see it in feed, it auto plays. So that cover image isn't as important, but that cover image is important when people are actually on your profile and they're looking through to try to get an understanding, and they can see on that cover image what the topic is. And so I think you should be doing that. I think that when you look at motherhood, are you guys doing this correctly?
This is so
helpful.
okay.
Keep
Okay,
going.
I just want to make sure like it's not redundant because maybe you're doing it. I just didn't see it.
No, it's
We have,
helpful.
like,
We
videos
do.
of the two of us. I guess it's like what do we share in terms of
No,
the
so
both
like
of us?
we are doing solo episodes as well.
Solo
like,
meaning the two of you.
Just us two. Like we'll do like maybe once or twice a month. Out of the 4 in a month, maybe there's 1 or 2 that is solo. But we find that like the guests really do help us grow because they share, and we do a collab reel with them.
How many? No, I understand that. That's yes, you're correct.
Yes.
What will help you grow far more, and where you're going to be getting a lot more impact on all of your metrics with that is when you're sending people back to a body of work that is just much more full, more full and consistent, and that has not so much a grid aesthetic, but grid continuity, right? And so what my suggestion is to you guys is get into studio, like a studio like this, where it's like a full solution, where you don't have to do all of this, you know what I'm talking about. You don't have to do all this extra work. Perfect. You go into studio, and because there's the two of you speaking with each other, you have each other to lean on. You go in for 60-minute sessions, 60 to 90-minute sessions, and from a pre-production perspective, how often do you guys talk?
24/7.
Oh, okay. You guys are always in contact. So let's say, for example, you mentioned which one of you mentioned that your kids aren't sleeping, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So to talk for 60 to 90 minutes about what that means to you and what's going on and how that has like a domino and a ripple effect on the rest of your life and your relationship with your husband and just the quality of your life and what it's doing to your health and all of that and what you're doing, like how you're seeking resolution to that and how you're seeking to get out of that situation and get your kids back to sleep and get your life back on track. That's a 60 to 90 minute conversation between two moms. And to make it so that there's substance to the conversation, you go into ChatGPT and you say, this is who it should already know who you are and who you are respectively in a single account. And you should talk to it and say, this is what I'm going through. This is, and the thing is, like, you can offer deeper insights into exactly how you're feeling about it and say, I need just short bullet points. I need like 4 to 6 word bullet points because the asset's already there. It's just a matter of taking that asset and packaging it. You're not creating value. You already have the value. You just need to extract it. And so going into ChatGPT and saying, this is what's going on, give me bullet points that the two of us can discuss in a 60 to 90 minute segment. And no more than bullet points. I'm not suggesting that you write scripts because the scripts are actually counterintuitive because then it becomes not a real conversation, right? And you just sit there and talk about it. And you make it so, like, right now, the way that we're shooting this, there's going to be some editing, but I would do it in a way where you're sitting and talking with each other. This is more of a free-flowing conversation, but when you're doing that, you can have the bullet points somewhere on a screen, and you can look over to it, say, okay, what are we talking about next? And you can continue talking about it, and all you have to do is you have to have multiple camera angles, and the multiple camera angles act as what's called a pattern interrupter to keep people engaged. That's like a proven thing. When like when you watch somebody
Switch
speak,
back and forth, yeah.
you can watch like a camera angle like this, and then there's a camera at 45 degrees. When that happens, and it's switching between the two, right? So there's a couple of reasons for that. One is it's because it's engaging. It creates like more session depth, so people will stay in that piece of content longer. But then the other thing that it's doing is it allows you to take a break, kind of regroup, look at what the next bullet point, talk to your partner and say, okay, we're going to talk about this next. And then when you start talking again, like when on one camera angle you can talk and then it cuts and it does this or it does that and it looks weird, right? Now you're just cutting from one camera to the other, so then it looks like there's no, it looks like continuous. It doesn't look like there's a break in the conversation. And that's a simple thing to do. All you need is
And it's not a podcast episode. It's just.
It is a podcast
Oh,
episode.
it is.
Yeah.
Oh.
And so what I'm suggesting is when you film that whole thing and the studio that you're working with, they'll take that 60 to 90 minute clip, they'll edit it because now they have 2 cameras on each of you doing using what I just described with these pattern interrupters, and you just have your bullet points that you discuss, and then it's a 60 to 90 minute video that they're going to give you that you're going to post on YouTube. Then the audio is going to go to Spotify and iTunes via Megaphone.
Yeah.
Okay. Then they're also going to create so that you have your long form video, you have your long form audio on both platforms. Then it's going to create anywhere from 8 to 12 reels. Those reels are going to go up obviously on Instagram. They're going to go up on TikTok. They're going to go up on YouTube Shorts. And on YouTube Shorts, the great thing is when you put up a short, you can put the link to the full episode. So then the short views are typically higher, and so now those are driving back to the long form, and so you're creating this kind of like ecosystem of content from simply doing maybe, quite frankly, 15 minutes of pre-production on those bullet points, because generating it is like a minute, and then editing them is another 10. And now you have 10 minutes of pre-production based on real life experiences that both of you are, and I would just have you're texting back and forth. Hey, I just had this happen to me, or my kid, we used to have phone calls last year of the school calling saying Maximus was misbehaving, and what I was feeling about the fact that, well, you guys are professional educators, why are you calling me? And just that whole feeling, that could be a topic about how to deal with the schools that are calling and saying your kid's misbehaving and kind of how you feel about that. So there's a number of different topics. So that whole thing where you're making this pillar content in that long form video and then it gets cut up into all of these different formats, I think that's a great thing for you guys to do. That is the most efficient way, because there are essentially three types of creators, 3 types of high level cohorts. There's aesthetic creators like fashion, travel, things along those lines. Then there's knowledge based creators who they communicate their value proposition through conversations, whether they're monologues or dialogues. And then the third is both. There are people who do both. Like today I was talking to one of our members, she's a plastic surgeon. She does both. Like she's a doctor that needs to convey information, and then there's an aesthetic component of like before and afters. So they're both. But with you guys, I feel it's largely knowledge based. It's transferring that knowledge. And the aesthetic part will be like you guys are already there. Like, you know, you're dressed nicely, you guys look great, and so you can have those conversations, right? So being a knowledge-based creator, this format that I just described, I believe is simply the best format and the most efficient format. And then once you have this as your base foundation, where you're spending those 15 minutes in pre-production and you're spending the 60 to 90 minutes filming, and then the studio takes care of the rest, they give you all that content, then you might spend another, between the two of you, an hour each actually deploying it. Yeah, assuming you don't have a social media manager who
We do
actually...
have an assistant.
You do?
Yeah.
Perfect.
We also use Opus because you told us to.
Yes, Opus, yes. So Opus is great because then you take that long form
Right,
clip
and
and
it's
you
easy,
use
and I don't
Opus.
have-
I find that it's the combination. I wouldn't use one exclusively over the other.
Right, you have to edit a bit.
Well, you have to edit it a bit, but the human edit that a studio like this will provide you with, quite frankly, I believe are superior still to Opus. But every now and then, Opus, you'll get a good nugget. Like the AI will pull out a clip that's really good and that maybe the human editors didn't get. So I suggest doing both. When I suggested Opus, it's if you don't have the resources, quite frankly, to get a human editor. It's like $20 a month for the subscription. So in the absence of the ability, like not having a budget for the human editors, you would use Opus, but ideally you would use both, where you just put it into Opus, you take it, and now you kind of have both to draw from.
Yeah.
I just believe that continuous uploading of content is really important. When you start increasing the frequency of posting, what's going to happen is that your average views per video are going to go down. So a lot of creators, they get really upset about that because they have this, it's vanity, right? Oh my God, my views are
Ego,
down.
yeah.
It's ego, thank you. It's ego. So what happens is, it depends what you're using the account for. So on an Instagram account like Valeria's, it's important that we don't do more than, let's say, 3 or 4 posts a day, because with an increased frequency of posting, you are going to get a lower average view per video. Mm-hmm. Why it's important for Valeria to keep it at a certain level is because we work with brands. And brands, rightfully so, need to see that there's like a certain amount of views per video that she's going to be able to get when she integrates their products or services in her content. Creator Method, however, as an example to compare, we don't work with brands in Creator Method. From the perspective, I mean, we're talking to brands about sponsoring our events and whatnot, but brands aren't relying on our average views per video, so they don't care. So once we increased, and this is important, once we increased the frequency, because we went from posting 3 times a day on Creator Method to like 8 or 10, what happens is the average views per video went down by a lot, but the total reach, trailing 30 days, went up dramatically, right? So if the goal is to get more reach, then more content, even if the average views per video go down, is actually achieving your goal. But you have to be okay from an ego perspective that each video isn't getting this massive amount of views. But your total reach goes up. And when you're looking at driving awareness overall, it's a matter of how many people you're reaching on a monthly basis, not what the unit value is on a per unit basis on each video. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, 100%.
So you should be okay with it.
Yeah.
So by becoming more efficient in content creation with this structure that I'm proposing, you're going to have more content, and that more content will result in fewer, like,
We get it, yeah.
right. And
But-
so, yeah.
So then on the other side, so you can't do all the podcast videos, right? So you do like the solo podcast videos, and then what other content?
So that was
Are
this
you-
part that
right,
we're going to
okay.
get back to. But I just wanted to kind of put a pin
That
in
makes
that and
sense,
say,
yeah.
now we agree on that.
Yeah.
Okay. So when it comes to the other stuff, so you're doing a lot of it with your formats, and you have your kids, and you have the text overlay on top. So it sounds to me like I would continue doing that. I would just try to make it so that you guys appear in it more, because I believe there's a certain value in that. Because again, I want you guys more in the content. That's what I would want.
Yeah.
I want to see you guys more in the
Like
content.
talking to the camera, or?
Not even talking to the camera. So first of all, when I look at your content, you have kind of this B-roll, the baby's sleeping or the baby's playing, and then you have your text overlay on top, and you have some sound, right? And those tend to do reasonably well for you. I see you guys doing it over like multiple times, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I would continue doing that. My only suggestion is you guys be in the content, because every impression you get on your likenesses is you're pushing the personal brand forward. Otherwise, it becomes to feel like a generic mom page, but it's not a generic mom page. You've got 2 powerful personal brands. You've got 2 powerful hosts in there who are articulate and have a great aesthetic and have everything going for them. I think you're doing a disservice to yourself and to your audience when you yourself are not. Because like as cute as babies are, you're not going to brand your baby. They all
Right.
kind of at the same, like at some point they all start looking the same, right? Until they get older and then they
Okay,
start.
so more of us in them.
I just want
we-
to see more of you
think-
in them.
I think where we need to improve is less B-roll, more talking to the camera. And like last night when we were in the hotel room, we took a bunch of like hot takes, like controversial hot takes. We called it like cancel me, and it was just like we would film each other and be like, share the hot take, and at the end we'd be like, cancel me, and it was just basically trying to. And I think that's like we were like, why don't we think more of series like that where we show our personality, we share our hot takes,
And
that
get
would, like,
controversial, because when you're controversial, it typically doesn't.
No, fair, but controversy is also like, it's like reality. So
Right.
not only
Yeah.
is it, you'll
Yeah.
get more attention, but it's also real, which I think is great.
Yeah.
Look, I'm a fan of trying different things.
Yes.
But I really strongly recommend that you find a couple of formats and you do it consistently for years. Because when you try something and it doesn't pop right away, maybe you won't, I don't know, but a lot of creators will look at it and say, it failed, it doesn't.
Well, no,
it doesn't
you
work."
actually told us to start doing carousels when we had our session together,
Yeah.
and we did them, and they were like total bust. And now they're our top performers.
Okay, so you just said something that's really important. And I'm kind of laughing, not laughing, I'm smiling because I feel like proud of myself
You
for,
should.
Yeah, you
for
should.
telling you that. And it's certainly not an I told you so moment, but if more creators will understand that you cannot judge formats in the first, it's not about time, it's a matter of how many pieces of content.
Yeah.
So I'm glad to hear that, that's excellent. The way to do it is like when you're looking at carousels, because carousels when you're logged into your own account, it'll show you views too, right? You guys see that, right?
Yeah.
So it'll show you views, and then publicly it doesn't show views, but it shows the engagement metrics. But obviously, like, so it may not be a vanity metric for you, the views on carousels, but it's a measure of how many people you're reaching. And that's the thing, everyone's concentrated on the vanity metrics, but they're not concentrated on the actual metrics that matter, that's gonna drive. Like, we
Engagement.
see when Valeria goes from like, trailing 30 days, or even like with Creator Method. Like Creator Method applications are mostly coming in from a combination of the Creator Method Instagram and my Instagram. And when I see that my trailing goes from like 1 million to 4 million, we see the volume in applications
Yeah.
go up. So, you know what I mean? So you have to be thinking about this as really a branding tool that's driving overall growth and not this like the one video. But just getting back to the concept with the carousel posts, it's like you do it 10 times. You you look at the amount of reach it got or the amount of views that it got, and you plot a graph, and then you do a straight line average. You can literally just screenshot and put it into ChatGPT and say, give me a straight line average. If it's going up, leave it alone. Don't touch it. Keep going, right? If it's flat or going down, tweak something in it, like, but don't abandon it. And many people do. So I believe that the only way to find winning formats is to do it like 100
Yeah,
times.
you have to keep going.
And every 10 times, you gotta, it's more complex than keep going. Yes, keep going as a kind of underlying premise, but like, you check it the first 10 and you're like, okay, plot the graph, which way is it going? Okay, cool. Next 10, plot the graph on that next segment of 10, and then plot the graph on 0 to 20, and then do it with 30, 40, 50, and get to 100. Now you have a real data set, and you have a real understanding of which way is this going.
Also,
What
it's
would-
hard. Oh, go ahead.
What would you say if the opposite happens? Because I've seen it too, where the first post I put out does really well, the second post as well, and then they start to get less and less.
How many posts are you talking about?
Like
Let's say
under
we
10.
have like 10, a series of 10. Like it's just not, the effect isn't there. Maybe do people get bored of it?
10?
Yeah, like,
It's just not, it's not statistically significant.
right.
Imagine your kids can't stop eating with their hands, and they're sitting there eating pasta with their hands when there's a spoon and a fork sitting right beside them. I mean, if you tell them 10 times, if you correct them 10 times and they don't, what, are you going to settle for the fact that they're just savages and when they're adults they're going to be eating pasta with their hands? No, you're going to keep trying to
Right.
explain it to
But
them.
you don't think that people get bored if there's like formats that people get bored of?
Let's go back to the kid analogy.
Yeah.
If 10 times you try to do it in one direct way, maybe you're going to find a different tone in your voice to try to do it. Maybe you're going to try to incent them. Maybe you're going to
Maybe
find...
the music's different. Maybe the font is
Thank you,
different.
yes.
Yeah.
So when you're communicating with your kids to try to accomplish like a change in their behavior, a correction to their behavior, you're going to try different things until you get it right. The difference between content creation and your kids is that you're never going to give up on your kids. But in
Right.
content creation, you give up because you're like, yeah, I'll try. Right. So
Yeah.
it depends. Look, I'll tell you what it is. It depends how important winning in that format is to you. And what I mean by that is that when we started Valeria's podcast a couple of years ago, and we started putting out the clips, the short form clips from her podcast, they didn't perform well. They performed like at maybe 1/10 of what her other stuff was doing in fashion and whatnot. And so like, we'd look at that and we'd get upset and be like, oh, like people aren't resonating, it's a flop. No. So then I said to Valeria, she started questioning the podcast, and I said, wait. I said, Valeria, do you agree that come hell or high water, you're going to have a podcast and it's going to succeed? She goes, yeah. I go, great. Then what does it matter what the views on these clips are? It doesn't matter. It makes no difference. Again, I said, does your ego hurt?
Yeah.
And she goes, well, yeah. It's not. I'm like, don't worry about it. And now they're performing at par, and sometimes they exceed, right? So the way I look at kind of lower performing content, I don't like to say low performing content, is let's say your average reel right now gets 30,000 views, and you come up with a new concept that you want to introduce or a new format that you want to introduce, and it only gets 5,000. So you might look at that and say, oh my God, like it's 25,000 less. I look at it like, you just got 5,000 views on a completely new concept. This is great. 5,000 people want this. And now it's a matter of let's condition the audience over time and potentially track it in increments of 10 posts each. And then let's take a look and say, okay, like which way is it going? What can I change? How can I make it better? That's what I suggest for you. Yeah. But I want to talk about like the other content, right? Because that's, I think, what you were asking, and I kind of digressed. So with the other content, I like the B-roll stuff that you're doing, and if you're constantly, like in your day-to-day life, you're doing B-roll, but instead of doing this, maybe do this. Mm-hmm. So it's more in like the background of what you're doing, right? So I think that you should be looking at doing that, and so creating more of that B-roll that you can then, the copy, you can use ChatGPT all day long to come up with that copy. Right. Make sure you edit it so it's in your unique voice and tone, and then put it against trending sound. So it's those three elements, right? It's the copy, the music, and that awesome B-roll that you guys are shooting. And do a lot of it when you're together and you're playing with the kids, or like you guys are like exhausted together and you're like, and the thing is when you're shooting that B-roll, in like, I call it tourist mode, just be in tourist mode and always shooting these like short, 5 to 10 second clips. When you're shooting that B-roll, don't even think about how you're going to use it. You'll figure that out later, because once you go to ChatGPT and you create that list of like 100 small phrases, I have some that I took screenshots of your stuff, and I thought the one was, sorry, I don't have my glasses. CEOs don't feel guilty for having a team. Why should moms? Right? So something like that, and then you did it where you guys.
That one didn't even do well.
No, I know, but regardless, it doesn't matter. Like, again, I'm not. You're more focused on the data, right? But I'm more focused on the concept, and so it's you, I believe. It's you walking with
my 2 kids.
Right, but what I'm saying is that this may or may not have done well, but what if you had like 100 of these sayings that you vetted and you edited to make them yours? And then you had all of this different B-roll that because when you're in tourist mode, you're constantly taking these. You get your husband to take them, you guys take it, your kids, whatever. Well, maybe your kids aren't taking them; they're maybe too small. And then you're combining these and you're putting them out on a regular basis, and then track which way it's going. And then what you do is within those data sets, when you see, let's say, for example, one topic, like when you put, let's say, can you give me an example of one of these that did pop off? If I look at your Instagram account now.
They're the ones at the top. They're pinned.
Okay. So I'm gonna go to them.
Like the one about like tuning out the noise, or no, the next one. That's just the next chapter. That one that really crushed it.
Okay, so this really crushed it. Again, I don't have my glasses. She was just.
You want me to read it?
She was just 2 pink lines on a.
Pregnancy
she was just
test.
2 pink lines, so cute, on a pregnancy test. Then a tiny flutter on the screen. I grew her hands, her heartbeat, her whole little world inside me. So the next time I tempted
to shame my body.
Tempted to shame this body, I'll remember
what
that.
it created.
Beautiful, and you have that memorized. So you take this, you put it into ChatGPT, you give it way more additional context. You have a conversation with ChatGPT, and you tell. That's what my kids call it.
I love it. Yeah.
You have a conversation, and you explain your feelings. Okay. Then what you do is you take a screenshot of the engagement metrics, and you put the engagement metrics in and say, these are the engagement metrics on Instagram. Then you take all 351 of these comments and you put them in a text file, or you just copy them and you put that, say, this is how the community responded to this. I want you to create 100 more passages like this. Maybe make them shorter or not, and give this to me. And this is as applicable as it is to me, right? Love. And then it's going to give it to you. And then what you're going to find is you're going to have 100 of these that are based on that exact copy, but not just based on that copy, plus the audience engagement metrics and the audience sentiment and your feeling. Tell it why you think it did well. And now what you have is you have this beautiful list of 100, which even if 80 of them are crap and you don't use them, I think a higher percentage will be good. But even if a lot of them are no good and some of them are good, You take them, then you apply your own edit to it, because those are just starting points for you. Then you use your own creative talents to go in and make it really pop. You have beautiful content now. And then now what you have is, because you've been in tourist mode all this time, now you've got the backgrounds to attach to it. And then the music, you can just go in and you can figure out the music.
Yeah.
That's easy. So I'm answering your question about what other formats you can do.
Yeah.
So that's another format you can do. But just make sure you're in those B-rolls. So I believe in that. So between like the base, the reason the base is important is because when I look at your content, if 70% is that base, then you're creating a real brand. You're creating a real like media brand. There's something to it. Like Valeria's formats and my formats, they're fairly consistent. Like it's over and over again. It's kind of the same, but we're changing the content within it, the messaging within it. But people get trained, like their eyes get trained to it. Like everybody knows when they're scrolling, they'll see Valeria's Get Ready With Me. It's in one of two places in our house. And so before they even realize it's Valeria, they're like, oh, I know.
That's her closet. Yeah.
It's familiar to them. Right, it's familiar, so they're likely to engage more, and that's why now her Get Readies With Me have consistently a high amount of views, right? But it takes time to build that. And then the other formats are, quite frankly, like, if you guys get a thought, and I just really believe in this, because again, I'm basing this on the fact that you are knowledge-based creators, and that you're transferring that knowledge over to your audience, and that's how you provide them with the benefit, right? With your value proposition, and so you guys just got to stop in the middle of the day and rip content. Like you get an idea, it's like you just pull over in your car. Car's a beautiful like studio because it's always perfect lighting, and you just be like bam, 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 bam. You just and then if you want, by the way, like to make those more effective, everybody talks about hooks. I don't like the concept of hooks because I don't believe in I think it gives creators a false sense of like you can hack your way into growth,
Right.
in which you can hack your way into growth, but it's not going to create a sustainable personal brand over time. That you need to do the long way, but if you have like a certain subject matter, the same way that I just did that, I would say based on this, I also want you to give me X amount of sentences that I can start a 45 to 60 second monologue while I'm pulled over at the side of the road to talk about motherhood. Give me just those first sentences in my unique voice. And that way you can have those sentences in a note document, and you can look at that first sentence and be like, when you pull over, and you just say that first sentence, and then you just riff on the rest of it, just freestyle. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
you have this
I
look in
totally-
your eye like I'm either a lunatic
No, because
or...
I have an
I've
idea.
done-
I have an
okay.
idea. You made me think of an
Okay.
idea that I can record in the car in
Okay,
exactly that
good.
lighting.
But,
Yeah.
but record it now. Like
Yeah.
not literally, don't walk
No,
out on
like
this
in the
podcast.
Uber.
Yeah, like in the Uber, just like bam, 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 bam,
Yeah.
bam. And so I think that's what you should do. So here's what it is. Like the studio stuff will be your polished stuff. That'll give you credibility and continuity and consistency. But then the human stuff is in the other 30% of the
Right.
content, like the tourists. I call it the tourist stuff, but you know what I'm talking about. Like that format, like this, the photo carousels, especially when you guys are together. Like, yeah, so those are some of the formats you can
Those
do.
are
And then
great.
stories throughout the day. Obviously, like share every single post on stories. And then when it comes to community management, are you guys responding to every single,
Yeah.
like both public and private in the DMs?
Mostly, yeah.
Awesome, so keep doing that. I mean, what else? Do you have any questions for me? This is kind of like I enjoy doing this. So.
I love that.
I'm gonna have a lot more questions that I'll probably slack you.
Yeah, I
With
feel
once
like-
I debrief about this, but no, you've made I think our wheels are turning. We have a lot
Yeah.
of
Oh, I
I
have
think we
something
need-
else.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry,
Tell
I
us,
apologize
tell
for
us.
interrupting. So the
No,
other thing
not.
is, from your podcasts,
Yeah.
the other thing that I believe you should be doing is get the transcript from the podcast.
Yeah.
All of it.
and ChatGPT.
Put it into ChatGPT and say make as many applicable blog posts as possible.
Blog
and now,
posts.
Yeah, make blog posts, and then those blog posts you can put into. Do you have a disc? Do
Substack.
Substack.
you have a Substack?
Yeah.
There's your Substack content, right? The thing is, it's your content. It's like
Yeah.
it's
So might as well just repurpose it. No, I love what you're saying because it's like we always say this, like we're doing it anyway. We're paying for the studio. We're coming to Miami. We're getting the guests and all that. But now we just have to like use it well.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
And I want to tell you something about guests too. We talked about like you just have to ask, and we actually created a piece of content here before we collect.
Yeah.
You'd be surprised. I have a lineup of very cool guests coming, both like industry experts that I never thought I would even talk to, let alone have on a podcast. Like I would get access to people at such high levels. And the thing is, if you look at the Creator Method podcast, I have like under 9,000 subscribers there. But people with big audiences, they're more looking at like your vibe. They're more looking to see if you're doing it professionally and consistently. So if I was filming it like I'm in a dungeon, then yeah, I don't think people would be interested in it. But they see conversations like this, they won't care about how many views this gets. They're gonna care about, like, how did it go? Like, are the guests cool? They don't need to be like famous or have high counts, but are they cool? Is there a vibe? Like, I like the way Gary interviews it. Like, it's cool. Like, I want to be on his, I want to be on his podcast. They won't care how many views it gets. So if you do kind of what I'm suggesting, I do believe that it starts snowballing, because then you get access to people who come in on your vibe, and then because of that energy between you, you'll get more people doing it, and that's how you build it. You got D'Amelio, Heidi. Sorry, Heidi was on Larry's podcast too, and you got her from a networking event that you were at, and that's great. But if every 10 people you ask now, let's say 2 of them say, yeah, I'll be on the podcast through your networking. Once you create this more meaningful body of work, especially a YouTube channel that people will go to and be like, oh, wow. And they go to your Instagram, they're like, oh, wow, they can see it happening. That 2 out of 10 will change to 8 to 9 out of 10. And that's when things start really taking off. One last thing I want to do, I want to take a look at your bio really quick, and I want to give you some tips on bio optimization. So you're verified, which is excellent. Your bio photo. Talk to me about the logic.
We need to change it.
So we just updated our podcast cover, so that was our next step. But now our next step is to update our bio.
I saw your podcast
We
cover.
did that thing where we polled our community.
Like
We did a swipe.
Okay, great.
We listened to
I'm glad to hear, because I don't remember
You're in
each
our head, don't
conversation.
worry.
Thank you. I don't remember each conversation I have with everyone, but I'm happy that
I think we need to do the same thing to our Instagram.
Yeah, we need to.
Yeah.
We'll change
You
that.
need that like that studio shot of the 2 of you together, like headshot, like together headshots. I think that's really important.
The same one we have for our podcast.
Yes. Sure. My point is that, right, like, usually people have their photos where it's too far away. The way that I like to gauge it is that if I saw your bio photo and then I was walking and I passed you in the street,
You would know who.
I'd be like, that's Annabel.
Right.
I clearly don't get that now with you guys, but believe it or not, I don't get that with most people with their profile pictures, because I don't know why they do it. They try to go really far away from, they're trying to get full body shots in a tiny little circle like this, right?
Yeah.
So that's one thing.
Right.
A mom's space that gets it. So here's where I'd like you to reconsider this. Okay, first of all, there's a video that I made in Creator Method about bio optimization. So I have a thesis on it, and my thesis is that the first line should be the value proposition. But when I say value proposition, it's like, why should I follow you? Why am I following you? Why? Not the feature. What's the benefit of following you? So when you say a mom space that gets it, you're almost
Community.
there.
It's like you're.
The community is a feature, not a benefit.
Right.
Right. So what's the benefit? So to me, when I look at what you guys are doing, it's community, but how are you making moms feel? You're making them feel better about themselves. You're making them feel accepted.
Less alone. Yeah.
Less alone. What is that word? What is the benefit? Again, we go to ChatGPT and you articulate this in an emotional way, right? And you articulate what benefit that moms will get by being a part of this. What problem are you solving for?
Okay. And we'll change.
Right. And then I believe you should mix it in with entrepreneurship. You should have a blend of entrepreneurship or busy or career.
Working mom.
Working, career, entrepreneurs. Find something that is not too long so it doesn't break from the second line, because aesthetically that's a big no-no on Instagram. Something relatively short. Consider it like your tagline, that first line. Because when you look at the potential follower journey, when I say potential follower, not the potential journey, the potential follower, their journey, they find you in their feed or on their explore page, whether it's on Instagram or TikTok, doesn't matter. They watch your video, they like your video. They then click into your profile. They go to your profile. They look at your username. Think about how you do it yourself, right? They look at your username. They look at the photo. They look at the counts. They'll look at the view count. The follower count to give them an idea of your scale. And these are like split second things that they're doing. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to move them along. So you're not trying to convert them to a follower on that first profile visit. You're trying to say, okay, what's the profile name or the username? Oh, cool. Picture. Oh, cool. Like that looks nice.
Keep them moving down.
You got to keep them on that funnel.
Right.
I love talking to
And
entrepreneurs because I don't have to explain it.
Make them want to see, because you can't just, when you post a reel, sometimes people will follow right away. But if they check your profile, they'll be like, are they posting more of this content? Is this is this their identity? Like, is this their one-off, or is this their whole identity? And on that question, on that topic, I had a question was, so we've always wanted to, again, make moms feel less alone, be not judgmental, and we see that. But I also think the importance of niching down. So I think we should lean into the fact that we are working moms.
Absolutely.
And I think that there's been times where like, we stand up for stay-at-home mom. It's every mom has, I think they're all amazing and all superheroes, but this is who we are. And I think we should, do you think we should niche down and talk more about that?
I like the fact, okay, so I think you should niche down, but yes or no, I don't like saying that. I think that you should be on topic, but don't mistake being on topic for excluding crucial elements of motherhood. So a crucial element of motherhood, maybe indirectly, is your relationship with your husband, because that relationship is the relationship that your children grow up seeing and then modeling their own lives after. So I think we all can agree that's really important, right? And so by not talking about your relationship and tying it back into your journey as a mom, I think that saying, well, I don't talk about relationships, I talk about motherhood, but relationships is a crucial part of being a mom. So I wouldn't exclude that. I wouldn't exclude your entrepreneurship journey and how you balance entrepreneurship with being a motherhood, because your identity as an entrepreneur is supremely relevant also in your role as a mother because of the example you are setting for your child. So just be careful when trying to define a niche becomes excluding key elements that are also important. So don't go too narrow is kind of what I'm saying. And then just kind of back to the bio, the second line should be, what are your credentials that allow you to deliver on the first line?
Is that where we write like the podcast and stuff?
That's where, no, the podcast is kind of like a feature of what you do. It's your credentials. It's like exited entrepreneur.
Yeah, I had like As Seen on Hulu for Special City, like ABC, like I had that.
But like mom, like,
You should say like mom, entrepreneur, founder, or like coach, things like that.
any kind of accreditation, like credibility.
Right.
So if I look at me as an example, my first line is creator, coach, and mentor. So I was able to put, in my opinion, and I might change it over time, is my value proposition within it and simultaneously describe what it is that I do, right? But that may not be the case for you, and that's okay. My second line is literally helped Valeria Lipovetsky to 6.8 million.
Right. So
That establishes my credibility because, and then I have co-founder creator method and then co-producer Not Alone podcast. So that's kind of how I'm suggesting. Yeah, just like the credentials that explain why you're going to deliver on the value proposition. I like the fact that you put partnerships at wearemorethanmoms.com. I think that was me.
That.
Yeah, that's what I recommend, because that's great, because that signals to people is like, hey, I do partnerships. Let's just really quickly talk. Are we okay for time? I don't want to.
Go for it.
When we talk about your monetization, are you currently trying to monetize? Or
we are monetizing. We have brand partnerships, but then we also have a ton of income that is just ours, like from our IRL mom community, from our next chapter. We also have a whiteboard for moms. That's
Beautiful.
all like our.
I love it. So then what I would do potentially after that is I would, if you still have any character count left, kind of talk about what your different offerings are. Just briefly talk about what your different offerings are. The brand partnerships, can you give me an idea of the profile, like what types of companies are reaching out to you?
All kinds. So we've got a lot of like mom product company, whether it's like formula or like, I don't know, kids pacifiers. And then we have,
Health
wellness things like 8 Sleep mattress or needed electrolytes.
So here's what I want you to do. In stuff like this, I want you to tag what your child is wearing. I want you to tag that swaddle thing. I want you to tag it all.
Yeah.
I noticed that Valeria does that,
She
which
does
is
it-
very helpful.
She does it for a reason, yeah. So there's
brands
a couple.
notice it?
Yeah, there's a couple of benefits. First of all, it's a discovery tool for your audience. Like, I think it's really nice.
Yeah,
Like when I'm
it
looking at the
is.
stuff that I look
I
at.
know, I
like
hate when people
motorcycle.
don't tag. Dale and I were just
Yeah.
If you hate it, then why don't you tag?
I don't know, because it's like usually with fashion, I'm like, why don't you tell me what brand that is?
Yeah.
But I would want to know the swaddle you're using.
Yeah.
I want to know who these
Strollers
are made by. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay,
That's a
that's
good
a good point.
idea. That's very important.
Is the-
Someone commented about your top.
Yeah.
Is the top
No,
tag?
it's from Zara.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I wrote it after.
Yeah.
But
So so you put it in, right? Like these are all important things that you should do. Like what you're essentially doing is you're giving the audience more benefit and more reason to follow
Yes,
you.
more value.
More value, thank you. And you're putting your hand up to brands saying, hey, like, I'm here.
Choose
and
me.
then on top of that, you have, it says, partnerships at wearemorethanmoms.com.
Perfect.
It's like a,
Right.
and so when a decision maker for a brand comes across your account, where do you think brands find creators with whom to
On
work?
social media.
No, but specifically. Yeah, they find them in their feeds, right?
Yeah.
Well, you know where they don't find them? In their inboxes.
Well, I know, because a lot of people we get, it's like, I'm a big follower of More Than Moms. Like,
Sure.
I'd love to work with you. That's
Of
how we get
course.
a lot of our partnerships.
Of course. A lot of people make the mistake to start saying, okay, at the current scale that you're at in terms of your follower count and your reach, I believe a lot of creators will make the mistake of saying, oh, we're getting brand deals. So now I'm going to either hire someone or myself, I'm going to reach out to brands and see if they want to. No, what you should be doing is taking that energy and creating more and better content that'll get more reach and then tagging brands in it. And then those brands have the potential of contacting you because they find you in their feed. Do you know who they're like? Think about the demographic of the decision makers who you're talking to. Who are they?
Like, just like us.
Right. They're not sitting in their inbox waiting for
Yeah,
you to
they're not
message them.
corporate
Right.
people in suits either.
Yeah, they're waiting. They're finding you on social media, and then you're resonating with them, and they're reaching out to
Exactly.
you. Do you guys have any more questions? This is fun for me, by the
No,
way.
this is so fun.
This was so helpful.
I
Good.
think that my last thing would just be like with our podcast, how do you grow listeners too? Like, yes, we've been posting these clips like 8 times a week, but maybe it's moved our podcast listeners maybe 200, 300, 400 per episode. But like, how are we getting into like the thousands?
How many episodes have you recorded?
80.
It's
I don't
not.
know.
It's not a lot. It's not a lot. You need a lot.
But
It
we
takes
launch
time.
every Thursday, right?
No,
So
I understand. Like it takes time. I mean, Valeria's not where we want her to be in terms of like the scale of the podcast. We believe that there's a lot more, potential there. Look, I think that right now you're relying on guests. You're skewing way too much guests. Where I believe that podcasts will resonate, it really comes back to concentrating more on the art of the conversation, becoming better communicators between yourselves, continuing to evolve the chemistry that you two have when you're speaking with each other. I think that's really important.
we should get our husbands on.
Yeah,
You should
I've
get
been
your
saying
you
this
should
for a
definitely-
long
I know.
time.
I
Yeah.
know. We'll
I've been
You
see.
saying
should-
we need
you
to
should get
do an
them on.
episode.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you go look at the view counts, not to like just a little. If you look at the view counts with the episodes of me
No,
and
I
Valeria's
agree.
content, they're a
So
lot.
actually, that's what my favorite.
But
episodes
our
are, the ones
thing
that
is
you
that
guys
Thank
put
you.
together.
okay, so
Thank you.
even if we have like that episode, sometimes we do a really great episode and we're like, that was amazing. That's going to crush. And we were in flow and sync, and then it doesn't translate into the
But I
numbers.
don't think it's. I think
Yeah, but so what?
relationships are
Just
so clickbaity.
go on to the next.
Do we still showcase those reels?
Yeah,
or-
absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely.
have
I've
to
always
bring
said
back
to
the
do when
old
we have to
ones.
bring our husbands on because I think that's the juicy stuff that people want to know.
Yes, I think you're being too literal with all of this. I think that if you concentrate, here's where your attention should go when it comes to improving your podcast. We talked about the subject matter. If you are paying attention to your life and when your kids don't sleep, what happens? How you felt when you eating too much of the pizza that your kids, I don't think your kids are too small to eat pizza, but when they start doing that, like how it makes you feel, the fact like how do you resist eating the junk
There's
food that your
scraps.
kids
No,
are
we
eating,
definitely deal
and
with that.
then you start gaining weight and feeling negative and whatever, right? The point is, if you are concentrating on paying attention to your real life, that's the stuff that really resonates.
Yes.
So if you do that, and then if you go to Chatty G and you say, hey, like this is what happened to me, and I want to talk about it, on the podcast, give me those talking points, and then you edit those talking points based on your real life experience, you're creating better conversations. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's how you do it. I was just talking today. I was on a call with one of our members who's, I mentioned she's a plastic surgeon, and she was saying like, how do I, get this content? And I'm like, how many people do you meet with a week to discuss what you're going to do, the procedure you're going to do for them? And she goes like, 20? I'm like, okay. Or no, maybe not 20, like 10 or whatever. I said, okay, what type of questions are they asking? And she's thinking. I go, if they ask an intriguing and interesting question, just make a mental note and then make a note after they leave, go to ChatGPT and say, hey, like you're getting the content from the source of the people who
Yeah,
will,
it's like when someone comments a good comment, I use it in a reel. Like I use that as my overlay.
I've used a comment that has turned into a viral reel.
okay, that's great. I want you to continue doing that, but let's extrapolate on that. Take that comment,
Put it in ChatGPT.
put it on ChatGPT, say, I want to make a 60-minute segment talking about it together. And here are my personal takes on it. Here's how I personally feel about that. Here's how we both personally feel. And so your prompt should be like, hey, you send me your prompt, I'll send you my prompt. Okay, we got our prompt. We're gonna put it in. Blah, 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 blah. And it's like, wow. And then you do your edit after that, and then you have a powerful piece of content based on reality. But don't only rely on the two of you. Talk to another mom. Listen to what the other mom is saying.
Yeah.
Listen to how the other mom is talking about her husband not contributing, or the fact that her husband's not getting up at night, or not enough. And then his argument is like, well, he's the one who makes the money, and he should have to be able to get his sleep, and how you feel about that, and how do you rectify that? I'm like, I kind of understand him. Yeah, he does have to get up and make the money, and I'm just sitting at home. What do you mean just sitting at home? You're a mom. You have a harder job than he. Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you're both talking about that, and you can put in your controversial takes on it, and you tell Chatty G about it, and then all of a sudden you've this beautiful list of bullet points, and you go in and edit it together. That's like a 20 to 30 minute project for you guys. But now you've got this. That's the guys. I'm sorry.
You've taken one point and you've made it into a whole.
Exactly. But I'm sorry for being so long-winded about it. But this is how you're asking how to grow the podcast. The source of the content coming into the podcast has to be better. It's just like with nutrition: garbage in, garbage out. If you eat shit, you're gonna look like shit. If you're talking about like stuff that isn't that great, your podcast won't resonate. Pay attention to your own life, and then extract from there.
Love.
Thank you. Any other questions, guys?
That was great. Thank
think-
you. We'll be DMing.
Thank you, guys.
We'll be following along
Oh,
for
so
sure.
good.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you for coming all this way. I
Oh,
really
Of course.
we're so
appreciate it.
grateful.